Got another Luger holster to fix. This one's a little bit different though. This one is for an artillery model Luger. So, it's different. Artillery Lugers were much longer. They were 4 or 5 inches longer in the barrel. Everything else was the same on them. Here's my blue gun Luger, and you can tell it's a bit longer. Pretty much everything else was the same. There's an accommodation on the back here for a stock, so you can put a stock onto an artillery model, which is kind of cool. The stock had a piece on the bottom that attached to the gun there, but it also had a provision for the toe of the holster to fit in it, and the stock laid against the back, and it had a piece of leather going across here where you would have a strap go through that to hold the stock on, and it buckled, and down here and it buckled, and then it would just go across your shoulder. You would carry it crossbody, and that's how these were normally carried. So it's pretty cool in that respect. Now, needless to say, when you got to clean your gun, you need to have a cleaning rod. And I did another holster a while back that had a cleaning rod inside the lid, right inside here. That was a totally different kind of deal. This one also has a cleaning rod, but it goes here. So this doesn't have a magazine pouch here, it has a cleaning rod here. Most of the other ones have a magazine pouch. So it's a bit different in that respect, that it has that. This one has the strap has come off, and we're going to reattach that. That's all this holster's going to get. The flaps for everything. This flap here, most of the other holsters have a Sam Browne stud. This has a bit of a different kind of a button stud. I can't find any of those, so I couldn't replace anything if I needed to. I'd have to make something if I was to replace it, and I just don't know where I would begin. I don't have a lathe or a mill or any of that kind of equipment. So somebody has gone, apparently that was the button pulled out, and they just made a knot here. Pretty ingenious. And they wanted to carry it on their belt instead of over their shoulder. And that is part of the history of these holsters. So really, when I see something like this, I say to myself, that's pretty neat. Somebody solved a problem that they perceived as a problem. Or it was their problem, they wanted it fixed, and they wanted it their way. We do that all the time. You know, I see something that I don't like. I couldn't find a holster that I liked to fit one of my guns. That's how I got started doing leather work. Couldn't find a holster. At the time, I carried a Makarov. I carried a Bulgarian Mac. And that just didn't, their holsters weren't real widely available for them. So I made one. Got me started in leather work many years ago, and now here I am. So, it's just part of the history. So, solutions to problems, and that's how things get done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reattach this strap, and I'll show you some of the things that I do, because this is a little different than some of the other ones. Most of the straps that I've done have attached up here, not down on the body. So it's a little challenging because of where it's at. A little hard to get in there, you know, because you got to get in down there. There's some extra threads on here where the original strap was that went across. They didn't take the threads out. All these threads will have to come out, and I'm just going to do that off camera because you don't need to see me doing all that. It takes time. So I'll get rid of all that, get ready to stitch this thing up. I'll get my thread dyed, get it waxed, get ready to go. And then I'll bring you back so you can see how I'm going to go about stitching this thing on down inside that holster. when you got a holster like this one had some mildew damage, or some heavy mildew on it, and my customer cleaned it up before he sent it, but I can see where it was, at least I'm assuming that's where it was right along here, some up along the flap in here, and it looks like it was cleaned up fairly well, but mildew is something that'll keep coming back, unless you kill it. And I don't necessarily know that Connolly's will kill it. But I'll always kind of treat underneath the product, underneath what I'm repairing, so that it doesn't, just so it's got some conditioning in it before I go too far with it. Not that Connolly's is the greatest conditioner out there, but it works fairly well. But how far do you go? Because here it looks great where I've treated it. But how far should I go? Do I do the entire holster? Kind of time consuming. And I don't know that my customer is going to want to pay for it. But at the same time, it looks kind of weird with just a spot done. You know, this much on the front here done. So I think I'm just going to go a little farther, at least do the front, see where it comes out. Shouldn't take me too terribly long to do it. I don't know, what do you think? I just went ahead and colored the whole, or cleaned the whole thing. I didn't know what else to do. It looks like this was at one time a different color. Back there, on the back here. So it's hard to say for sure. I wasn't around when the holster was made. But it's quite possible. Most of them that I've seen online are lighter color. But I just went ahead and cleaned the whole thing. I didn't know what was going to be best to do. So there was that. Now it's clean. What would you have done? Drop a comment down below. Let me know. Would you have cleaned the whole holster? Or would you have just left it? Alright, I've got my thread is dyed. We're all ready to get started stitching. The artillery holster is ready to go. There's always on the bottom, there's always a hole that's left for that binding stitch to go across. So I'm going to start in the middle because there's 3 rows of stitching. There's there's just 2 little stitches down the center. So that's how that is. I'm trying a different thing. I've got a camera up here today, and I'm trying to use that one. It's actually the same kind of camera as this one. It's just up there. Trying a little different. So there's 3 rows, 1 in the middle. The first one I'm going to do is in the middle because that'll hold everything together nicely. It's only 2 stitches into the strap here. So what I'm going to do is start there. Now, it's going to be really hard for me to show all of this since it's down inside the holster. These are my short needles. And they're not super sharp. They were actually bent needles. Pretty severely bent. And that's why I just cut them off. But they work pretty good for this purpose. Now this next one will go through the strap and the holster body. The hardest part is going to be going down inside. I wonder if I can stick a clip on here. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. You can just kind of a clip on there that helps hold it open. Now, of course, the next one, I have to use pliers just to put it through the stitch hole. There, get the first one done. The other way to do this is to split the side of the holster open. And I don't like to do that. If it's already got a lot of thread that's damaged and needs to be replaced anyway, it's not a big deal. Sometimes that is the case. This holster is actually in pretty good shape on the sides. There is some damaged over here at the top and a little bit over here at the top, but I'm not going to worry about that because it's so minor. No, if you're thinking that it's difficult to tie it off, you're right. It is. But it's part of the gig. I'm going to disappear off camera. I might put in some of this from the other camera. But I just kind of use my bountiful belly. Take my needles off first. It's not tied off as well as I'd like it. I may re-stitch that. For the time being, I am going to cut these off so they're out of my way. Whenever I dye the thread, I always make sure that I've got plenty of extra. Even these leftover tags are plenty to do some more. So, I'm going to go ahead. There's the first 3 holes. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these off camera so you don't have to actually watch the pain and agony of stitching these holes. These will be a little easier to tie off because they're quite a bit farther up. I may have to get another pair of pliers so I could reach down in there and get that tied better. That's just what it is going to be. Not a big deal. We just got to deal with it. So I'll be back. Got it all stitched on. One trick is I take this and I push down on the thread that's got to go down, and then I pull up on the other one, and this makes it a little easier to tie them. I forgot about that the first time. You stick that down in there and you can push down on that thread and pull up, and that works pretty good. I just forgot about it. I'm going to treat this area again with some Connolly's and call it a day on that one. So far, looks pretty good. The Connolly's will kind of change the color of it a little bit. That's okay. That's what I want it to do. All in all, I think this holster turned out pretty well. It's a nice example of an artillery holster, aside from the fact that it's been modified. And modifying holsters is kind of part of that history of them. And the belt loops back here, I know are not even from a Luger holster. They were just a piece of strap made to look. They did a fairly decent job. They've tried to put the original straps on a Luger holster, have a decorative groove in them here, right along the side here. And they tried to put that in there. I don't know what they used to do it, but it wasn't a tool that's made for doing that, obviously. But they did try. And that's okay. But there's no date on here unless it's hidden under one of the straps, which is entirely possible. Most of these holsters, when you look at how this hinge piece is attached, the artillery holsters are the only ones that I've noticed that have a separate piece that attaches to the body and to the flap. Any of the other times I've seen a separate piece attached there has been on a replica holster. Not to say that any of the other ones weren't done that way, because I can't say for sure. I haven't seen every version of a Luger holster that's been made. I've worked on holsters from 1917 to 1940, and probably not every year in between, and not every manufacturer. I'm sure there was other manufacturers in between there too. This is the only one I've ever seen that did not have a date stamp on it though. So I think that date stamp is probably pretty critical, and I know that with these artillery holsters, the date stamp was on the stock. So the toe of the holster went into a piece on the stock, and then the stock came up here, and there was a strap that went across here, and then your shoulder strap went through that, over the stock, through that loop, and then on both sides here, and then across your shoulder. And that's how these were typically carried, is across the shoulder. And I'll throw a picture in somewhere if I haven't already. I'll throw another one in. But that's typically, these were carried over the shoulder. I've seen other replica holsters or clone holsters that you can buy on eBay and stuff that have this, that are not a artillery holster. There are other holsters. The Navy holster, I think. The Navy Luger was just a little shorter. It was kind of between the artillery holster and the standard Luger. I believe it had just a little bit longer barrel. The holster was a little bit different. I haven't done a Navy holster yet. They were different though. And there was a Portuguese holster. Oh, there's been a few different versions. And some of them I haven't done. Most of the ones I've done have been German manufacturers. Matter of fact, all of them have. So there's my limited knowledge on that. But I'll leave a couple of links. There's been some interesting videos that I've seen regarding the Luger. So I'll leave some links to some of those. If YouTube dings me for leaving those, tough do. But they're really interesting. That explain the different versions of the Luger. And it's really a fascinating gun. And I understand why people collect them. So, not a real tough repair at all. Just time consuming. Working on from the inside of the holster is difficult. And there isn't much that can be done about that. This poor strap is, I don't like to replace it, because it's just getting to that point where it looks like it's ready to snap, to break off right here where it goes onto that button stud, and I don't want to bend it any more than I have to. It's going to leave it just like this, because we don't like to replace parts if we don't have to. Hard to duplicate something like that because it was made to go around that knot there, because there's no button stud there, and I couldn't put a button stud in there if I had to, because I don't know where I'd get one. Stay closed. I have no date on this. Usually I will tell you the date, but most of these, from what I understand, the date was marked on the stock that went with them. So the stock had a piece on the bottom of the stock where the stock would attach to the pistol that the toe of the holster fit into, and then it went up, and there was a strap that went across here that attached here, and then attached in the middle, and then two straps would go across, or it would go into that, and then this holster was carried across your body on that strap, and it was really kind of a cool setup. I'll try to leave some pictures of some really neat pictures of how these were carried and that sort of thing. They're really a neat design. I'm hoping that I can one day get another one in here that's original, and I think that'd be really cool. I was hoping that I had a customer online to send me a Browning high power holster, stock holster. It was a wooden stock that was also a holster. Pretty cool setup. Didn't get to see that yet. Maybe someday. But yeah, this isn't a terrible repair. So I'm going to get some pictures of this, send them to my customer. I don't want to try to repair this strap or replace it. I'm going to leave it the way it is. It's close, but these, are going to be probably a safe queen anyway. But that's kind of the way it's going to be. I did have to give this a little bit of a treatment because I saw that mildew was starting to come back. And it's not something that I normally do. I usually leave that to my customers. And that's just the way I kind of roll with that. So there you go. Anyway, all that being said, since I ramble on so much, that's kind of it for this repair. Check out some links to some other videos down in the description. They were other folks that know more about the Luger than I do are going to talk about it. And Forgotten Weapons, I can't remember the exact name of the channel, but I think it is Forgotten Weapons, come to think of it. They got some really good content there if you're looking for some information on some of these old forgotten weapons. Check them out, and stay safe. God bless.